Today we're out here in the Mojave Desert in the 2021 Lexus GX460, and we're going to talk about the correct tire pressures for your Lexus GX460 and why you may be doing it all wrong. Alright, so let's get right to it. A lot of people don't put the correct tire pressure in their Lexus GX460. So, what is the correct tire pressure? And it's easy. It's what's on your door sticker. And in the case of this car, the sticker says 32 PSI. Now, it's important to note that 32 PSI is not a low number or some sort of wild guess. 32 PSI is indeed the correct PSI for normal on and off-road driving. So why do a lot of people get this wrong? Well, when we bought this car, as soon as we drove it off the dealer, we looked at the tire pressures on the readings here, and lo and behold, of course, they had it inflated to 42 PSI. Why does that happen? That's up for debate. Let's just say that it just happens. Whether it's right off the lot at the dealer or you take your car into service at a quick lube or even the dealer itself, and they'll go ahead and jack the tire pressure up to some exorbitant pressure where it has no business being. The correct pressure, again, is 32 PSI. So anyway, this kind of culture of putting in too much air in your tires is just a thing, at least in America. So a lot of people have their tires overinflated. Now we're going to tie this into going off-road, airing down for comfort, and talk about the exceptions to this rule in a second. But what I want to press upon and get across first and foremost is that your best on and off-road comfort is 32 PSI. Now, how can we understand how the engineers came up with that number? The first thing you got to understand is a tire is nothing more than an air spring. And here's the deal. If it's overinflated, it will bounce like a basketball, and you'll have what's called a bouncy ride, right? If you underinflate it, it will have what's called a crashy ride. So the sweet spot is what's on your door sticker. It's what the engineers came up with, and that is, for this car, 32 PSI. Now, what happens in between the basketball and the crash is something that it basically absorbs the shock without rebound. That's the word, rebound, right? So that's that 32 PSI. That's what allows the tire to absorb the shock when you hit bumps and you not feel this jolt going up or a crash going down. That's the sweet spot. How is a tire able to do this? Well, the magic of a tire is it has a sidewall. So unlike a stiff spring, like a coil spring, where when you compress it down, it's going to want to rebound straight back up. The magic of a modern tire is the sidewall, so it compresses down and compresses outward. So it changes the direction this way and this way towards your sidewalls, and that absorbs a lot of that rebound. Now, of course, it's not perfect, but that's that sweet spot where you're hitting bumps. Look at me, I'm on a washboard road now, and I'm just sailing along relative to being over and under inflated, because the tire is able to push out those shocks radially, or laterally is probably a better word, but maybe radially too, but you get what I'm saying, outward, instead of going straight back up and bouncing me around. Now, that's the idea behind having your pressures at the correct setting. It's why people love air springs, why Lexus put air springs in the luxury version of this car, and why everybody likes those smooth air springs no matter what car you're in. Everybody loves air springs. It makes a nice comfy ride. Well, what's the difference between an air spring, that air bladder that they put on luxury cars and trucks? What's the difference between that and a coil spring? Same thing with the tire. When you hit when you hit the bumps on your air springs, it moves in the rubber laterally, sideways, and absorbs that rebound, so you get that smooth ride. Same thing going on with everybody's tires, no matter what car you're in. So keep it at 32 PSI. Now, let's go over when you would air down. Easy. Soft sand when you want more traction, or any situation where you want more traction. It's going to lengthen the tread pattern as you flatten the tire. But a big misconception is airing down for comfort, and that's what today's video is all about. When people insist that they're airing down to make a smoother ride, no, your smoothest ride is at stock PSI. In this case, 32 PSI when you're in that sweet spot. Now, a lot of people go, no, that's not the case. When I air down, it's smoother off-road, and it smooths it out. What's probably happening in the majority of those situations is, like I said earlier in the beginning of this video, is most people don't even have, in default, in other words, when they're driving around normally, they got the tires not at the stock PSI. They have it jacked up to probably 38 or 40 or 42 or who knows what PSI to begin with. So when they go off-road thinking they're at stock PSI, when they're really overinflated, they start jarring and bumping around, and then they air down and they go, oh, wow, this is so much more comfortable. But in truth, they're just not overinflated anymore. And even though they're underinflated, it's still more comfortable than when they would take their car at whatever, 40 PSI. So I'm willing to bet that most people who insist that airing down makes their ride more comfortable are already at some ridiculous tire PSI when they're on the street, 40 or above or who knows what. And even a little bit overinflated makes a difference. Again, like I said in the beginning of this video, 32 is the magic number. It's not a guess. So 33 is not the correct answer. 34 is not the correct answer. 32 is the correct answer. Just a little bit more PSI from 32 going up to say 33 or 34 will start to induce the basketball effects. Just a little bit less will start to induce the crash effect. Now let's talk about the exceptions, which is if you want more traction to make a tire pattern, but it's not for comfort. So there are instances where there are exceptions. Now, this car is actually at about 36 or 34 PSI. 34 PSI, 34 to 35. I actually raise it up 3 more pounds, and you may be wondering why, and this is one of those exceptions. If you add more crap to your car, in other words, we added skid plates that are steel and a steel bumper, all that heavy stuff is loading down the balance of the car. So it's basically preloading the tires, okay? The added weight that we added on preloads the tires. So we actually raise the pressure to account for this, in our case up to 3 pounds, 32, 35 PSI, to account for the extra weight, to account for that extra preload, and now we're in the sweet spot again. So depending on how you alter or modify your vehicle, you may have to experiment. If you change the tire size, etc., you may have to experiment, but you want that sweet spot. You don't want to either super over or super under. Find that sweet spot. I hope the logic of the air spring effect in your tire made sense. We've lived on washboard roads for over a decade. Doesn't matter what car you take out, the correct tire pressure on washboard roads off-road is the stock pressure, no doubt. If you found this video helpful, please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you, and have a great, great day. Smooth sailing, 35 PSI. You see this road. Look at that. No jars, no bumps. I'm bringing up the speed. And this is all washboard and a mess, but it's smooth sailing. At around 34, 35 PSI. Look at that. Those are bumps. Don't get that rebound. It just absorbs it laterally. Believe you me, I'm flying a little bit for the conditions of this road.